All right, so have you ever looked up at the sky and wondered, who's actually keeping it safe? Well, today we're diving into a really vital part of Pakistan's military, the Air Defense Corps. These guys are the guardians of the nation's airspace, and we're about to take a look at just how they get the job done.
I mean, think about it for a second. In this day and age with super fast jets and, drones everywhere, how does a country actually protect itself from threats coming from above? For Pakistan, a huge piece of that puzzle, a big part of that answer, is the Army Air Defense Corps. So let's break down what they're all about. Okay, here's how we're going to tackle this. We've got 5 main sections. We'll kick things off with what the Corps actually is, then we'll jump back to its origin story in 1948. After that, we'll peek inside the regiments, look at the chain of command, and finally wrap it all up with why this Corps matters so much. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Shield of Pakistan's Skies. It's time to get right to the heart of this organization's identity.
So what exactly is the ADC? Well, you can think of them as wearing 2 hats. On one hand, they're a combat support branch, right? They're the ones using anti-aircraft tactics to defend the airspace. But on the other hand, they're also an administrative branch. This means they're not just about the on-the-ground action. They're also managing the whole system, the big picture strategy of keeping the skies over Pakistan secure. Okay, let's get a quick snapshot of the Corps. So they're a branch of the Pakistan Army, obviously. Their type is Combat Support Service, and their main role, as we've said, is anti-aircraft warfare. You'll often just hear them called the ADC. Their home base, their headquarters, is at the Army GHQ in Rawalpindi, and their colors are black and yellow. Simple as that. Now for Section 2, let's talk about where it all began. This is their origin story, and you'll see it's really tied into the very beginnings of Pakistan itself.
77 years. Just let that sink in for a moment. That's how long the Air Defense Corps has been active. It was founded way back in 1948, which, of course, was right at the very beginning. This wasn't some later addition. It has been a cornerstone of the nation's defense, quite literally from day one.
And this really drives home just how important they were from the start. See, the Corps was basically formed from the air defense units that were part of the old British Indian Army before partition. And get this, on February 21st, 1948, so really early on, it was inspected by none other than the Governor General himself, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. I mean, that's a huge vote of confidence right there. Okay, moving on to Section 3. Now we get to look inside the machine. The Corps isn't just one big blob. It's actually built from smaller, highly specialized units called regiments. These are the building blocks, so let's see how it all fits together. So the whole Corps is structured around 12 active regiments. And where do they all learn their craft? Well, every single one of them is trained at the School of Army Air Defense, which is down in Karachi. This is super important because it standardizes everything. It ensures that every soldier, every unit, is trained to the same high standard.
All right, you're going to see a bunch of acronyms, so let's quickly decode them so it all makes sense. LTAD, that's Light Air Defense. Think fast, mobile, quick-to-deploy units. RCG is for radar control guns. These are your more traditional anti-aircraft guns, but they're guided by modern radar. SAM stands for Surface-to-Air Missile, which is for taking out threats from much farther away and way up high. And finally, SP means self-propelled. If you see that, it just means the weapon is mounted on a vehicle, so it can move around on its own. It's this mix of different tools that makes them so versatile.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. These regiments aren't just faceless numbers. They have their own nicknames, their own identities. Just listen to some of these. Born to Win, Sky Saviors, the Desert Star. You got the 97th RCG, just called Killer. And the 148th, a self-propelled unit, calls itself First to Fire. How cool is that? These names are more than just talk. They're about the pride and the specific job of each unit. All right, on to our next section, the chain of command. So we've seen the building blocks. Now let's look at who's actually running the show and how this whole organization is structured from the top down. The command structure is actually pretty clear-cut. At the very top of the Air Defense Corps, you have the Director General, who is a Major General. That's step 1. Now, who does this person report to? They report directly to the Chief of the General Staff, which is a super important position in the Army. And then, the entire command, the whole shebang, operates under the main Army General Headquarters in Rawalpindi. This ensures everything is perfectly integrated with the rest of the Army. And just to give you a sense of the leadership over time, we can look at some of the past Director Generals. You have Major General Aga Masood Hassan back in 1987.
Fast forward to 2000, Lieutenant General Qatir Hussain Khan was in charge. More recently, in 2017, it was Lieutenant General Hamoud Zaman Khan, and then in 2021, Lieutenant General Mohammad Zafar Iqbal. What this really shows you is a long, stable history of command. Okay, that brings us to our final section, why the corps matters. We've talked about who they are, where they came from, and how they're structured. So let's get to the big takeaway. What's the bottom line here? So when you pull it all together, from its deep historical roots all the way back in 48 to its modern, complex structure of specialized regiments, it becomes clear that the Air Defense Corps is so much more than just another branch of the Army. It is, and this is the key takeaway, the essential guardian of Pakistan's sovereignty in the skies. In a world and region where air power is everything, being able to control your own airspace isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely critical.
And that really leaves us with a final lingering question, doesn't it? We're living in an age of new, evolving threats. We're talking swarms of drones, sophisticated cyber attacks. So how will this nearly 8-decade-old corps adapt to defend the skies of tomorrow? The answer to that question is going to be a huge factor in the future of Pakistan's national security. Thanks for tuning into this explainer.